Hey guys, welcome back to Nature's Cadence Farm. Today we're going to be working on our 2005 Dodge Grand Caravan. And this is the SXT package, so it has the 3.8 liter engine in it, the 3800. And I've got a coolant leak, and I believe it's coming from the water pump. So I need to get underneath it here and try to figure out where the leak is coming from first, because Mrs. Cadence had it parked in a parking spot and noticed a puddle of coolant underneath of there. So we affectionately call this van Max Rebo. And if you know what that reference is, put it down below in the comments. I'd love to hear what you think. So let's get underneath it here and get started and see if we can find this leak, and then go ahead and fix it. We noticed the leak was over here on the passenger side of the vehicle, and you can see right here there's a distinct coolant leak, and it's coming out of the water pump right above this pulley. This is the serpentine belt that is attached to this pulley here, or the pulley is attached to the water pump. But there's the water pump right here, and it's on the passenger side. Right here, here's the oil pan, and here's a hard pipe that comes from the radiator. Okay, and then and right up, and then right into the water pump housing. And then you can see over here is the front strut. This is the front strut, and so that's where the water pump is located. So first off, we're going to go ahead and get this serpentine belt pulled off of here, and we're also going to start getting the coolant drained out of the system. I'm going to go ahead and replace this lower radiator hose anyways. So what I'm going to do is open up this hose clamp, get this hose off of this metal pipe, and I've got this 3.5 gallon bucket that should hold plenty of coolant out of this. So let's go ahead and see if we get this broken open here. Once you get your hose clamp off there, you're going to need to get this hose twisted, and that'll break the seal. I like to use a pair of channel locks or vice grips, but if you can get your hand on here enough to get it to twist, that would be ideal. Then you don't need any extra tools. There you go. Did you see it pop like that? There you go. There's the coolant already dripping out. Here's the water pump pulley, and I need to get the belt off of here now that I have all the water drained out. I made this tool a while back. It's just a piece of red metal I had, and a piece of a 1/2-inch key stock that I welded onto it. And there you go. Once you get it in there, then you can pull down on it, and you can see that'll loosen up the belt. So I'm sure you can buy this tool online, and I'll put a link down below if I find it. This, just like I said, I just made this myself. But what I'm going to do is get this belt off of the pulley, and that way I can rotate this pulley around to get to all these bolts that hold the pulley onto the pump itself. So I'm going to go ahead and do that and get the belt out of the way. So there's the square hole on the adjuster, and what you do is you put your tool in there, and then turn it like lefty-loosey, so that this pulley right here goes down. And that's what you need to do to remove the tension from the belt, so you can go ahead and get it pulled off of this pulley. So now we can rotate the pump around and get these individual bolts out, so we can get this off. What I've got here is an 18-inch 1/2-inch extension, impact rated, and a 13mm deep well socket. It doesn't have to be deep well. This is how I was doing it here. I was fishing it in all the way through, straight through there, and then interfacing with the bolt head, and that way I could just run these out like that. So that's what you'll need to do, or hold the pulley somehow and maybe break them loose one at a time. I'm not sure how you do it without an impact and an extension, but that's how I did it. So I can't really get the pulley off, and I'm afraid I won't have enough room, because that's all the room I have is my finger right there to get the pump out. And I think I can go around here and loosen these bolts up on the water pump housing here. But I'm afraid once I do that, I won't be able to still get the impeller beyond this without lowering the motor, maybe by removing an engine mount and lowering the engine itself by with a jack underneath of it or something. So I don't know. I'm gonna play around with this for a little bit, and we'll see what I come up with. I've got my 10 millimeter deep well here, and what I was doing was just going around and loosening up these bolts. There's 5 bolts around, so this is what the impeller looks like I was talking about. And I might have enough room, but this is the new pump. And so yeah, I'm just going around here backing these bolts out and kind of working around the pulley as it's loose on there. I just have to remember to get the pump and the pulley kind of together when it all goes back in place. So I'm gonna go ahead and get these off, and we'll see what happens. I was able to get the pump out without actually moving the engine. What I had to do, so the pulley usually mounts outside of here like this, just like that. So what I had to do is actually turn the pulley and put it inside of the pump kind of bracket like that, and then I was able to pop the bottom out, and then the bottom was able to wiggle out of the pump housing right there. I feel pretty confident this was the problem, because you can see how much it was weeping out of the weep hole there. I'm sure the seal just gave out. This is easily, I'm sure it is, the original water pump, and it's got 260 some thousand miles on it. I doubt, I hope it's the case, but I doubt this aftermarket pump will provide the same longevity, but we'll cross our fingers and hope for the best. Either way, so remember I said we need to get this pulley back on here before we go reinstalling the pump, and I need to get the gasket back in here. It did not look like there was any RTV or anything on here. It was just this gasket was just stuck on there, so I want to make sure I get that in. But I'm gonna clean this surface up really well before, and wipe it down with a clean rag before I go putting it all back in there with the new gasket. All right, here we go. We're gonna attempt to get this thing in here without the gasket falling all over the place. So when you get everything lined up there, you want to make sure you have a pump bolt handy to go ahead and get one in there to get it started, holding it in place, because that gasket will want to kind of not be in the right place for you. But once you get it lined up, you can go ahead and get one started in there, because I've got the gasket. I felt it fall into the groove, and I've got a bolt that I'll run in by hand. These ones over here seem to be pretty easy to get in by hand to get started. So we're just making sure we're all lined up with the rest of it. And the gasket, you could kind of tell that it would be poking out, because this wouldn't fit nice and flush, and it's nice and flush now. So here's another water pump bolt, and what I'll do is I'll get that one started here, and that'll help keep it from rotating and knocking that gasket out. So I'll run that in by hand. There, that's perfect. So that'll hold itself in place. Now you can kind of rest your hand a little bit and be ready for putting the rest of them in there. You'll want to go ahead and thread these in by hand. You don't want to, because it's just an aluminum housing, and you don't want to cross thread anything by getting them started with a power tool or something like that. I mean, you can go for it if you're feeling lucky, but my luck is I my luck is I would just cross thread them and have more problems on my hand. But here we go, getting that in there. We'll go ahead and get the I might get a ratcheting wrench to help put these in, because it kind of felt like that would be a better option than that ratchet. Not that the ratchet didn't work. Not everybody has ratcheting wrenches, especially offset reversible ratcheting wrenches. Those are really nice. But I'm gonna go grab one of those and see if that helps. But I'll also try to get it going with just the ratchet too. So if that's all you have, I can show you how to do that. It looks like a ratcheting wrench works perfect for these ones in the back. Don't get much throw on it, but I could definitely see where that would be nice, especially if you ran them up by hand like I did. Alright, so that one's pretty good. Go ahead and run this up the rest of the way. This top one, or this one in the furthest part of the back, I'll get that nice and tight, and then I can use this wrench. I've got everything tightened up. I'm just going around here in a cross pattern. So tighten one down and then go into its opposite one here, and then tightening that down. And I'm just going around here. I'm sure there's a torque setting for these, and when I get done, I'll torque them down, and I'll put the torque spec on the screen there for you. So if you're interested, that's what it'll be, and it might even be in the description too, if you're interested in that sort of thing. We got everything torqued down. Everything's good to go there. Next up, we're going to go ahead and put this pulley back on the pump, and that is these 3 bolts here. This is what they look like. The last one is right here, so get that one started by hand, and then I'll use the impact again to tighten them up and make sure they're nice and tight on there, so we don't have any issues in the future. Right, we got the water pump bolts tightened down, and also these 3 bolts for the pulley ready to go. So next up, we're going to need to use our handmade tool. This is a 1/2-inch piece of key stock on this piece of metal bar. You can also buy these online. I might have already said that, but nonetheless, here we go. We're going to get the belt put back onto the water pump. So this is kind of how I have it set up, because this is the easiest one to work on. Okay, that does not feel tight enough, because we don't have it around this idler up here, which is nice because it's smooth. There we go. Perfect. I don't know if you saw how I did that. I made sure everything was in the grooves first. Everything was ready to go except for the alternator. That's what we need to check before we even start it up too. There we go. So now we have it in the alternator grooves over here, air conditioning compressor over here, crank over here, water pump, power steering pump. Just make double sure, kind of. Yeah, that's good to go. It's around this idler, the tensioner idler, and then this idler up here. So I used the, once I got it on the air conditioning compressor, I went ahead and slid this on up here where this idler is, because that's nice and smooth, and it went right on there. So there we go. So that's on there. So next up, we're going to go ahead and change this lower radiator hose and the upper radiator hose, since we have the system drained out. And it's just a good time to go ahead and do that kind of stuff. Now that we've got the water pump installed, I'm going to go ahead and get these hoses here straightened out. So I've got the lower radiator hose right here, and here's that clamp that we had taken off earlier, and the other clamp is forward here all the way up against the radiator. So what I'm going to need to do, I'm going to go ahead and get my other hose clamp pliers, the ones that actually are ratcheting and they lock instead of those pliers that I had before. And I actually got worm gear style hose clamps to go on there instead of these style. These are okay. I mean, they lasted, you know, all those years, and they're probably reusable. But I just feel better with these. I can, you know, take them off on the side of the road if I had to with 5/16 there. So either way, let's go ahead and get this hose off of here and get the new lower hose on. Might have a little residual coolant in here, so I've got a catch pan underneath here to catch everything. And here's those pliers I was talking about. These are these ratchet down, and then they you know, they hold steady, and they've got this little groove here that you can actually lock in the clamp. So we can try that here, but what I'm going to do is just leave that in place until we get this hose kind of out of there. And so what I'm going to do is come up to here and get this hook part into that part of the hose clamp, and then attempt to grab this other side. One reason I don't like these spring type clamps is it's really hard to sometimes get these tools in. I know my buddy's got a pair that are remote, so you can hold on to it, you know, out here and squeeze, and the head, it can go up inside of here. So it looks like I might need to go get my other pliers. Oh no, it's just not. Well, maybe. Let's see if I can at least get it maybe rotate it down a little bit so I can get the pliers. I wish I could get you in here to see, but it's just so tight. I'm sure this isn't as bad as some vehicles, but still, that's better. I don't know if that's exactly right, but nonetheless, we have it loosened, and I'm hoping nothing comes out all over me. Oh, good. All right, perfect. So there you go. You can kind of see I didn't exactly have it engaged properly, but the idea is you could, what you do is you hook that part into it, and then this part here is what actually squeezes onto that tab at the top, you see, and then you know, you can easily compress that clamp, and that's nice. I mean, it is. So my buddy Ed actually gave these to me after we worked on his son's truck. So thank you, Ed. Very kind of you. So here I've got the new hose clamp installed on the new hose, and I'll put a link to all these hoses, hose clamps, and everything down below. So be sure to check that out when you're looking. I'm gonna take this old hose clamp off. I might hold on to those in case of an emergency or something here at the house where I might need something. I don't have the right size worm gear style. We're just going to slide that hose up to where it feels like it needs to be. Yeah, that's got it. There's a little plastic bump out on the neck right there, and so that's totally fine like that. I'm just going to put this hose clamp over here on there before I slide the hose up, and then this slides up to this little register right here that's on this pipe. So there's the hose clamp, and that'll be tightened down right there. So I'll go get some tools for that. And this can tighten down just like that, and I can get straight onto that perfectly from right here underneath here. So we'll do that in just a little bit. We get going with everything else. It's got a little bit of a bend in it. I'm just going to push this up past that bump a little to get that kink out of that pre-bent hose right there. There we go. All right, so that looks great. That's perfect. So that's all ready to go to tighten down. So let's go get some tools to do that. Got a 5/16 on an extension here. Put it up at this angle here so I can get to it. This is just a 1/4 inch ratchet. We're not not going crazy with it. This is a nice long extension. I just wanted to be able to be away from it so you guys could see what I was doing. You don't need this long of an extension. I think this is probably a 12-inch, maybe an 18. Feels like it's tightening up just fine. That's perfect. Just gonna double check this one real quick. Oh yeah, that's good to go. All right, so the lower hose is on. Let's do the upper hose. So here's the upper hose. You can see there's one of those original hose clamps, and then the other hose clamp is mounted underneath of here to the radiator and all that. So let me get you set up here so you can see what I'm doing. We'll go ahead and get this one pulled off. So here we go with our tool again, and what we'll do is we'll get this kind of swiveled around there so it goes into that, and then this goes into this, and there we go. Look at that. Really nice. Get that off the rubber like that. We'll slide it back there and get it out of the way. Go ahead and release it, because we'll need to, I'm sure need to twist and pull. Hopefully that means if we do have to twist and pull it, sealed up real nice. You can kind of hear it popping loose. I'm gonna go ahead and try to get the tool in here and get this clamp off. It might be a little tough to video, but you get the idea what I'm gonna do here. Let's see if I can get this thing out of here. I've got a new hose here. I'm gonna go ahead and just slide this in place. Sometimes you got to kind of start the bottom and then wiggle the top onto there and slide it all the way up to that bump, and then there's the hose clamp. So here's the new hose getting ready to go on the new side, and same thing. You just kind of get that bottom kind of lined up and then wiggle and jiggle. But I'm gonna go ahead and get this on here, and we'll get these hose clamps tightened up. I went ahead and got these hose clamps tightened down, and I removed that old hose clamp that I had still sitting there. Got this other side tightened up too. So next up, what we're going to do is we're going to fill up the radiator here with coolant. So let me go get that in a funnel, and we'll start getting the air out of the system. Went ahead and filled up the radiator here through the radiator cap with the funnel, and I used this Rotella ELC 50/50. I've mixed it with distilled water, 50% distilled water, 50% coolant. And if you have any experience with this product, let me know. I've switched over pretty much everything that has coolant in it with this here, and you can see it's for heavy-duty diesel, gasoline, and natural gas engines, both on and off-road applications. I've been using that for quite a while now, and very, very happy with it. I've got the coolant filled up to the max level there. So what I'm going to do is start the engine up and let the the coolant cycle through and let the thermostat open, and then whatever cools off, it should pull whatever extra it needs out of the reservoir there, and then I'll just go back and check that again. I'll repeat that cycle 2 or 3 times. So that's how I'm going to get the air out of the system there. So yeah, once it cools off, you would check it and make sure this hose doesn't have any pressure in it, and then you can open up the cap again and refill there, or you can refill here at the reservoir if it sucked all that out of there. So, but either way, yeah, that's how it's going to go. Just top it off, drive it like normal, check for leaks underneath. I have coolant in it now, so let's go underneath it here and take a look. And right in there is where I was getting a lot of coolant leakage, which you can still see it's a little wet from just working on everything. So far so good. Here's our new hose clamp. So I'm good with that. Nothing crazy going on. So let me start it up, and we'll check on it here in just a minute. All right, had the engine running for a little bit, and we've got a little pressure on the system. That means the thermostat's open and it's warmed up enough to start building up heat. So what I'm going to do is shut the engine off now, and we'll come back and check the reservoir and see how much got sucked out of it while it was cooling off. You can see the level down in there looks perfect, and it didn't hardly pull any out of the reservoir here. Um, so I'm good to go with that. That is excellent. So I'm so happy to get this van back together and on the road, and I know Mrs. Cadence will be too, because she loves the van. Well, there you go. Max Revo is done. Well, at least for the water pump. I'm sure there's something else on here that needs to be done. But either way, um, yeah, super excited to get this project finished up. It's been leaking for just a little bit, and then it just got really bad really fast. So I'm very excited to have this little project finished up and get this back on the road. So next step is I'm gonna take this for a test drive and bring it back and let it, check it over and everything. Make sure there's just no leaks, because I just don't want any surprises out on the road with it. But thanks for watching, and we really appreciate it. We'll see you next time.